Welcome back to Let's Talk About That. Today we have Chris Kingsley with ADEC. How are you doing today, Chris?
I am doing well,
So I know it's a little rainy outside.
It is.
But it's still pretty busy. It doesn't matter. The work always carries on, doesn't it?
Work's always there. We're very busy at ADEC right now, as always. Yeah.
So let's talk about ADEC. What does ADEC do?
So ADEC serves people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we provide a lot of different services. So I can certainly get into the services that we provide, but the high level picture is 71-year-old organization, nonprofit organization, founded here in Elkhart County, serving our county and the adjacent county, St. Joe County, as well. So high level. We're providing services to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and wraparound services, trying to really support families of people with those types of disabilities as well. We have certain things that we do as well that support broader initiatives, but that's the basic idea of ADEC.
So what does that entail? Like, are there certain types of services? What does that look like when you get a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so it's a lot of different things. Okay. And so at the beginning, it was ADEC started in 1952, group of parents who were saying, basically at the time, your alternative was institutionalization. So in fact, at that time, it was not uncommon for a parent to hear from some authority, hey, send your kid to an institution and move on, because that's what you need.
So like shipping them to boarding school, basically, so that you can live your life, and we can handle them more than you can.
Right.
Like they get them a higher quality of life because we know how to handle.
The reality is I don't know that people did know how.
Right.
And so the sad thing was these parents were saying that, there's got to be a better future. There has to be a better life. So, that really puts into context everything that we do now is how that started there's got to be a better life for these kids of ours, for these neighbors, for these friends of ours. So what that boils down to, and it's changed a lot over the years, but what that looks like now is we provide a lot of residential supports for people, for adults who, have a lot of them, grown up in their family context, had a lot of support through school systems as they've aged. And, now they need a place to call home and on their own. And so that could be in a group home environment. We provide group home settings, which are based in communities. They're in neighborhoods. They're interacting with the world around them. It could be in another type of setting. They may still live with their family. Right. They may live with other folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities in an apartment context or in a home, and we're providing some supports to them. With the basic idea, we talk a lot about people being able to have choices and possibilities in their lives. And so our services should be supporting that, whether it's residential. We have day program services, 5 locations where people go to throughout the day just to have a structured environment where we're doing a lot of interacting with the community, getting out, volunteering places, supporting local businesses, but the people that we serve are out interacting in the community, and then also having a home base during the day where they can do activities, socialize, kind of have some structure. We do employment services that are fully focused on connecting the people that we serve with job opportunities, building up skills, things like that. So it's really, the idea is that we want people to experience, to experience the things that fulfill you and me as humans. It's really that simple. I think it's what it boils down to is we think of people with disabilities are people.
Right.
Period. And so what I need for satisfaction, I need to have a sense of agency in my life. I need to have a sense of purpose. I need to have a sense of accomplishment. Those are things that everybody needs that. So we try and tailor our services in a way that bring that type of experience. And we can only be a part of that, right? Right. So we're just there to support that.
So a lot of that kind of being a servant's heart, kind of getting into the giving back. Do you work with some of the families as well? Because I know it's like a village type
Yeah,
of thing.
absolutely.
So like kind of helping even outside of your support, taking it home and saying like, hey, this is how, to continue to grow and build on certain skill sets or lifestyle, activities that you need to fortify.
Absolutely. I mean,
Is that something I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not
yeah.
sure, but like, is that something you guys kind of work in some of that space as
We're
well?
absolutely one of the resources that families are accessing, and we're part of an ecosystem. So there are case managers that work with people that we serve they're not employed by ADEC, but we're part of a team with that case manager, with the guardians, parents, whoever that loved ones. And all of them form a team that are helping to create what we call person-centered plans for the people that are being served. And so there's dialogue that's happening there about, okay, this is what we're seeing on the home front. This is what we're seeing in a day program or in the employment side of things. And here's some supports that may be helpful, or here's some strategies that could create better outcomes in a situation. So yeah, we're one of those resources that families are accessing.
So basically having your feedback loop, you're really tapping into all of these other services. Because I would think if you're looking at how you can help, like how do you get that type of information? Other than just what you're doing on the daily basis, where are you hearing this from? Like, where are you getting that type of information?
Well, so many places now. Again, because it's people-centered approach. There's a lot of places that information comes from, but the most basic place is interacting with people, getting to know
Just
people that
engaging,
we're working with.
right?
Yeah, and there's no one size fits all for either of us.
Right.
There's not a one size fits all for anyone that we serve. So that said, there's a lot of tools in the toolbox.
Right.
Like I said, maybe a day program environment is a good environment for somebody to take a next step or to reach whatever goals that they've expressed. Maybe it's an employment setting, maybe it's a residential setting. So I think the information, it's coming from a lot of places. So
right.
there's when you talk about this ecosystem, there's funding streams and the primary funding streams that are coming through federal funds and coming through the Medicare system to support people in these situations. And so, as a provider, and this gets to the business side of things, you really need to know the ins and outs of every program you work with. There's heavy compliance, and you think about the work that we're doing. It's with a vulnerable population, which means that we have to have the highest level of integrity, of ethics, of attention to the work that we're doing.
And training, right?
And training.
Lots of training.
Yeah, lots
right.
of training.
Yeah.
It's a big investment in our business.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So let me rewind. Let's go back a little bit further.
Sure.
And say, like, okay, you're here now. You're the CEO.
Yeah.
You're the CEO. So, like, how do you get to this point? I mean, what's your background? What's your story?
Yeah.
Let's dig into that a little bit.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. It's a varied background. So
that's okay.
Coming out, it is.
We're layered from all of our experiences, right?
Yeah, and that is so true. Yeah. So coming out of college, I graduated with a Bible and religion degree and went straight into Christian ministry for a few years in a pastoral context. At the end of that, I had done some side job painting while pastoring, and I actually ended up being a commercial painter for 2 years.
Nice.
So that was a phase. After that, agreed to a 1-year missionary term in Ecuador. My wife and I lived in Ecuador doing mission work there.
Well, that's exactly the way it sounds. Equator.
Yeah.
Hot.
So we were high elevation.
Oh yeah, so it's a little bit cooler.
Yeah, it's actually,
just a little.
It's kind of eternal spring in that
Right?
high
Really?
elevation part of Ecuador. Now we've done a lot of work in the jungle too, and that is
That
hot.
is the equator. Yeah.
So we came back from that, and that was a lot of ministry relationship building. And we came back from that, bilingual, of course. Came back from that into the Great Recession, and I got involved in nonprofit almost by accident. So it was 2010. Economy was tough. There was a position that La Casa, another local nonprofit, was offering in financial education, and that was an interest area of mine. I enjoy teaching. And I've always enjoyed personal finance. So I applied for that, got it, and ended up spending 12 years in that environment. Worked doing a lot of financial education programs, financial empowerment programs. Moved into kind of the development side and the fundraising side of that work, which is, if you're a nonprofit, a big piece of
Acquisition.
the work. Yeah, marketing side, all of that type of thing. And then was really blessed to be able to play the role of CEO in that organization for about 4.5 years prior to this opportunity opening up at ADEC, which, as we may get into, I have some history and background with as well.
Yeah. So basically, just kind of pointing out that you don't just go straight to the top. You kind of have to go through a journey.
That's right.
And with even also going in through La Casa, which is a nonprofit as well.
Yeah.
You have like some background skills that you really understood some of even the challenges and obstacles that a nonprofit may have. Not even in the role that you're doing, but you have. So, like, talk a little bit about like as a nonprofit. What do you see like some of the real big challenges that nonprofits have?
So I think, nonprofit, there's a lot of, it's a nonprofit business. So it's always important to say that. So there's a lot of things that, regardless of what business you're in, they apply, right? But nonprofit has distinct elements to it. Certainly, with any business, you need to fund your business, right? It's just, how do you
have to have fuel?
Business? Yeah, you got to have fuel. In a nonprofit environment, you're going to have more of that coming from philanthropy, from donations, and that means that you, as a nonprofit, how you engage with the community matters a lot.
So your branding and your vision and what your external visibility, because you're building trust too.
Absolutely.
Because people don't give money towards something they don't believe in.
That's right.
Right?
We have to be trustworthy stewards of resources, and we need to be doing it in a way that is accomplishing that mission that we say we're out to accomplish. So stewardship is a very big piece of nonprofit management. It is engaging with donors. It's trying to engage with, because we have passions as people, we care about. We have particular things that we care about, and we want to connect with people who care about these services for the community of our friends and neighbors with disabilities. We want to engage them so that it's a win-win thing. They're investing in a mission. It does have an ROI. It's just not a financial ROI if you're a donor to ADEC. So nonprofits, and particularly community-based nonprofits, which is the realm that we're talking about here, we want to be engaging with the community. We want the community to be buying into what we're doing
and the impact and value they see within the community. So, and I think a lot of even whether it's profit or for-profit or nonprofit, everyone has an impact story. Like everyone wants to have some kind of level of impact somewhere. It just depends on how it's focused, right?
That's
what the lens looks like and where the return. So as you're looking at value, value is presented in a lot of different ways.
That's right.
Right. So your value is by the people that you're touching and how you're changing their lives and how, you're transforming something that people may not understand. And help kind of wrap it in kind of a container to say like, hey, this is how you grow, right? This is the program of how we grow and how we do it together, right? So I know, just not over pitching that, but I'm trying to understand too, because I know as some of the listeners and viewers, they would be wondering like, hey, how does this work? What does it look like inside to be able to have impact? You know,
Yeah.
because whenever you're launching an organization, or supporting an organization, whether it's yours or a bigger cause, you're always focused on what's the impact. What's the impact are we having, and are we adding value? So through your feedback loops and all of your other connections, some of this I would have to go back and go back a little bit into your family history of association.
Yeah.
So you have to see it even further back, like looking at beyond like your mission. We absorb what we see sometimes. So if you're watching, even becoming a pastor, that something had to influence a value proposition of saying like, hey, this is what I need to do. Was that influenced by your family anyway? Or like, what did that look like?
Absolutely. And it was influenced by my upbringing. And, I like to frame it by saying, I don't view nonprofit leadership as better than for-profit leadership or any, I think I really believe we're all kind of called to particular
calling
spaces, and we want to just operate in those places that we're called to. And so, I grew up in a setting where my parents, they had intentionally, number one, chosen to live in a neighborhood that was an under-resourced neighborhood. They were a part of a church that had acquired a number of properties in that neighborhood and had chosen to be a very neighborhood-focused church. And so that was part of my upbringing, and watching my parents really believe in something and then live it, really.
And even more than themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, embrace some challenges in the midst of that. And then both of them were also involved in nonprofit work. So that was just a really strong value for them. My dad worked at ADEC. So, to really cut to the chase in terms of family connection, he worked 40 years at ADEC.
Wow.
And so I grew up visiting him. And the work he did was on the employment side of ADEC. And so he was trying to find jobs that ADEC could complete in their ADEC Industries facility, that ADEC that folks interact, that the individuals we serve could carry out these jobs. And so he would go out and get the contract. He would design a line so that the people that we serve could work that line, and so he would kind of engineer that side of things. And he did that for 40 years. And
so it was like a lot of like process development too, right?
Absolutely.
So this is the workflow. This is how, even if you're going into an industry, it may not be the norm, it may be a custom tailored program of this is how the onboarding works. This is how so he worked into that figure.
Yes, right. The training, and then the actual design of the lines. Sometimes they were working on like unique, they would create, different types of machines or things to try and accommodate the abilities of the people who were working on the line. And so there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of innovation in the space that we're in.
So you're actually enabling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is the opposite. Like you say, hey, we're going to enable people to do more.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful.
And that's what he loved doing. And I remember at his retirement thing, he said, I loved going to work every day. And I had an inside look at that, and it was true. I knew that was the case. So, ADEC has had a really near and dear place. But I would say in the context of, again, just this idea of, for me, being a part of these types of missions where you are trying to, again, overused term, but empower, you're trying to create opportunities in the face of barriers that people are facing. That's just been something that's really resonated for me. I find meaning in it, and I enjoy being part of. In my role, I'm working on on the effective operations, the stewardship. So I really look at my role as we have amazing people at ADEC, and so I'm there to I'm really there to empower them as well. I'm not just there to empower the people that we serve, but it's to get these creative people clicking as they work on the mission. So, and And for me, that's been a really good fit.
A lot of synchronization and just
Yeah.
getting cross-functional
Right.
departments. Like
Right.
what synergies across different programs.
Yeah,
that
trying
type of work.
to see the big picture and help those things connect. And then sometimes your job as a CEO is to get out of the way
Right.
as well.
So, as a CEO, what would you classify yourself as, a visionary or integrator?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Or a little bit of both. Like
I would
usually you're
actually-
one side or the other.
Yeah,
Typically.
so I would say that I default toward visionary. However, I think as I've developed in my career, I've learned to pay a lot of attention to and value integration, and so that's been a bit of an interesting kind of progression for me. And I've seen, as you well know, on both fronts, there's real pros and cons. And so as somebody who tends toward visionary, I'm very careful to have around me good integrators.
Right.
And
Because you have to focus on business design, right?
That's right.
You have to focus on the design of the organization.
Yep.
And one of the coins we always say is better to work. You have to work on the business versus in the business all the time.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so
Yep.
like, of course you have to have boots on the ground sometimes to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
as we're integrating, we're doing some of the work. We're on the street. We're in the gutters with everyone else. We're rising up so that we can help design.
Yeah.
Like you
Right.
can't design an organization if you don't know what's happening.
Yeah,
with
you've
it.
got to be able to.
Right.
That's right. You got to be willing to go deep at times, and then you need to pull yourself back out again.
Right. And knowing when to do that, right?
That's right.
Yeah, because it's hard, like, especially if you're passionate about what you're doing, you tend to kind of lean into certain areas.
Yeah.
Like, say, if you are really passionate about the financial education side, and you're like, wow, I just love that. And you find yourself kind of leaning into it.
Yeah.
Because you're just passionate about that and actually giving up some of that, saying we have other people that can also do the same thing and we can scale out further out and do more and have more impact versus just me doing it. Right. So it's one of those things that's just like being able to know when the right time is to scale out versus scaling up. And, I think that's interesting because a lot of leaders, or even solopreneurs that are leaders that may have been a president somewhere and they're saying, hey, I'm starting my new thing. I know I can lead. I know what it takes. But at a certain point, when you're a solopreneur, you're starting something out of nothing. It's all you. So you're everything, right? But then knowing how to scale out and how, so ADEC is mature. It's been around for a while, but it only started with a few people.
That's right.
It wasn't always huge, but then, the whole power of community is really the story in all of this as you grow as a group together and your people following the vision of, hey, this is what our vision is. And then also making sure everyone on the ground is following that same vision. Do they believe in it?
Right.
Do they believe in the vision of where you're going? So what are some of the things that you guys do at ADEC to kind of really solidify, fortify the vision? Like, so, because I know there's a cause, but what are the things you guys do to actually fortify the vision across the organization?
And of course, as you try and integrate, you're trying to work it into your processes, number one, and make sure that things are visible to the people who are working. So certainly orientation is an initial point. And I go to all of our new staff orientations and talk about our history, what our values, our mission, our goals as an agency. But then, we really work hard because we're very spread out. So we have residential staff who never walk into our corporate office, for example. I mean, they are their shifts happen at a house. So it's really building up our managers and working on culture in that group is one of the most effective things that we can do. And we've got some good things in place. We have twice a year managers meetings that are focused on kind of both professional development, but also just that continuing to build and nurture the culture of ADEC. And I think organizational culture it's talked about a lot, but it's
not implemented.
It's
right.
not, and it's critical. And people underestimate the amount of work that culture takes in an organization.
Well, but it's everything.
It is.
It is. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah.
So then basically as they carry on the culture into their satellites or their areas of where they operate on the day to day, that same vision kind of resonates into every
That's the goal.
Right?
That's the goal. And it takes constant work, and that's not a reflection. What that's a reflection of is the amount of, and this is like with any business, the amount of roles and responsibilities you have. And so it's really on us as leaders to continue to give that message, and to to over communicate on mission.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with over communication.
Yeah.
Miscommunication's bad,
right?
But over communicating just comprehension and validity that, like, hey, you understand where we're going, right? That's okay, and some people need to hear it multiple times, just to make sure it's real. A lot of so kind of switching gears, going out on the external front of this. So as an organization, I do believe that marketing is always very, very, very important. And that's visibility of the organization's vision and goals. So what do you guys do to let your community know about what you're doing as an agency?
Yeah, I mean, we do a number of things. We do, we do publications that we send out on a quarterly basis that give some updates and invite people to engage with us. We're very active. Do you have
set audiences, or do you have like this? These are the specific spaces we want to talk to because we have the most impact of visibility?
Sure. So like those quarterly publications are going to tend to be donor focused.
Okay.
We have very active social media channels, and those are really there to engage. I mean, we just have a lot of people who follow ADEC, who have connections to ADEC. So it's family members, but it's also donors and supporters, and so that's a pretty broad audience. ADEC and the work that we do is, it's really because we're out in the community a lot. There's so many engaging activities that we're involved in, so it's very conducive to social media presence. We're on radio as well, and we're not only promoting the work that we do, but also promoting the opportunity to work with us, because we employ a lot of people at ADEC. It takes a lot of people to run the operation.
Have to have fuel.
Gotta have fuel. So.
Sometimes that's energy,
And then certainly some community events and trying to invite the community to engage with some of the events that we're already a part of. So, we have a basketball league that runs through the winter, and so we invite the community to come out and watch these basketball games. It's fun. We have volunteers, from businesses. Grand Design played a big role this past season. Creating a team to play against our teams. So there's a lot of kind of touch points like that. We just ran a Picture Possibilities fundraising campaign through July that had a lot of virtual opportunities to participate, as well as a community gathering at the end of it. So, and we've done a lot of things over the years, and we'll continue to kind of introduce new things too.
So you do feel it's important to provide those events where people can get involved and be able to really see the work that you are doing.
Yeah, I think, when you get in, and I found this growing up, when you get involved in our work, it's really compelling work. And so it's, you get into that setting and you want to support it. And, obviously for us, we want people to support it in order to provide a better service and to continue to make more impact. But I don't like to just focus on what ADEC gets out of it. It's the mission,
right.
and really it's the, as involved community members, it's the joy that they get out of being a part of the mission. So it really is that win-win for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So if there was a kind of going back to like the value add for someone that really wants to get involved, because that's usually what you're doing is you're connecting.
Yeah.
You have different missions within ADEC,
Sure.
depending on where you can get involved. As a person really wanting to give back and getting involved, what would you advise them, to do if they're looking at getting involved in ADEC?
Well, it depends a lot on the context of the person. I mean, if you really want to get deeply involved, come work for us.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. We're always looking for, qualified, competent, good staff people to work in these various environments that we're working in. Volunteering is certainly something that we do at ADEC as well, and that's going to be that could really depend. I mean, you can get involved, adecinc.com. Come look at ways to engage with us there. But there's a variety of things that could look like. There's a layer of work that we do that is, you've got to be trained and you've got to know, that work, and you're not going to do that level of work as a volunteer, but there are things you can do as a volunteer. And then, certainly just donating, coming out to our events, supporting in those types of ways, just following us, sharing our posts. Simple things like that are, they keep that mission of what we're doing out in the community.
Right, because support isn't always just financial.
That's right.
It's about, empowering the whole organization. Yeah. And actually, at the end of the day, it's not just for the organization, it's for the people that
it really
impacting,
is. Yeah.
That's... Yeah, I think that's really important to kind of really convey that is, especially you're looking at a nonprofit, it's always going to be for others.
Yeah.
It's for someone else. So if you're someone that wants to get involved and you really care about helping others, especially for a cause like ADEC, that's something that you want to reach out and see how you can get engaged. Yeah. It's as little as just sharing a post, a like, a share, or hey, if you really want to get deep involved, you guys have programs where you can possibly train people to get a little bit deeper and go a little bit further with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as mentioned, you can go on social media. You can't miss ADEC. They're right there. They're everywhere, man. You can't miss them. They're there. So if you want to get involved, make sure you go and find them in all of the places that they're at, which is everywhere. Thank you so much for joining the show today. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me on today.
All right. Well, we'll see you in the next show.